All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Good morning for those coming online from the UK, and good afternoon for our friends and partners in China. Welcome to our Fashion Forum, UK-China Fashion Forum, hosted by the China-Britain Business Council, the Department for International Trade, and the China Fashion Association. Thank you very much and for your time and interest this afternoon or this morning. For the 2-hour session today, we have a range of great speakers and topics, and also we have two heated panel discussions. Towards the end of today's session, we have 15 minutes of Q&A session. So please stay till the end. If you have any questions towards any of the speakers or panelists, please do type your questions in the chat box below, and we'll pick up your questions towards the end. So without further delay, I would like to welcome John. John is the head of retail and consumer from Department for International Trade. He is based in Shanghai in the UK consulate. So John, thanks very much today, and please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ran. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned, I'm John. I lead the retail team at DIT at the British Consulate in Shanghai. Quick background before I start. Before joining DIT, I've always been in retail, starting from a brand on Savile Row before moving on to Burberry and then Louis Vuitton for the APAC market. So now at DIT, our focus is on supporting British retailers for entering or developing their business in China across trade, investment, and policy. So it is good to be here today, having a personal interest in fashion and in support of this forum with the China-Britain Business Council and China Fashion Association. Because, I mean, for us, these activities are important. Part of what we try to do at DIT is keep UK-China relations active, retailers on both sides aware of the landscape and commercial opportunities by joining trade shows, running consumer-facing events, for example. It's not easy to business develop in a normal retail environment. So given the challenging travel situation we still face, these activities help bring people together. And today we have insights from partners in the industry and the platform for conversations to take place with the business matching. We know the UK fashion industry is strong. London hosts one of the big four fashion weeks. There are a number of pretty iconic fashion brands, very creative brands, as well as key fashion associations, design schools pushing the industry forward. And you can see this with the brands available, the manufacturing industries in the UK. There's a lot of innovation, technical and fashion forward products being created. There is an attraction to the heritage of UK fashion, which is why at DIT we support brands in joining these activities. And when possible in the future, we definitely want to have a physical UK brand showcase in Shanghai. China will remain a key destination for retail brands. It is a difficult market, but huge potential as known. So timing is important. Every brand is different and forward-looking. I think consumer consumption is going to return. So we'll keep on top of things, the changing trends, the opportunities to trade visible between the UK and China. And you'll hear about some of this today. There's great content, support services available, interesting and practical advice for approaching the China market. It's all super useful. All right, I'll wrap up and leave it here. Feel free to reach out to us at DIT. It's always good to connect regarding fashion opportunities. So thanks everybody for joining today, CBBC, CFA for putting this together, and all of the speakers for sharing expertise. Enjoy the sessions, and back to Ran.
Thank you, John. So we will be having our first speaker, James. James is the Managing Director of Highlink UK. I'm just going to introduce James briefly to everybody, although you can find his bio on the event webpage. So with 18 years of international marketing experience, James has lived and worked in Shanghai, New York, Tokyo, and London. James has extensive experience working in the advertisement and public relations industries in the UK, starting from WPP's global network to Ogilvy Mather, working across a variety of blue chip international brands such as British Airways, SAP, and Unilever. Then to China, where James spent 5 years launching and marketing UK luxury brands. Now, as the managing director of Highlink London, James is one of the first British MDs of a Chinese corporation in the UK. He combines his digital marketing skills with his knowledge of Chinese culture to promote Highlink's ambitions as a cultural bridge to help Western brands access China, the fastest growing consumer market in the world, and launch Chinese brands into Europe. James, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Let me just bring up my screen. Let's have a look. Hopefully you can now see the presentation screen. Yeah, thank you for inviting me to share with you today. My name is James, the MD of Highlink here in the UK. And Highlink is the first native Chinese digital agency to move to the West. We help a variety of different clients, very large brands from the Olympics all the way through to smaller boutique brands, but we pride ourselves in the diversity of type of client that we have. And we rely on our hyperlocal insight from the local offices, of which we have 15 across in China. Particularly with COVID, that's key to really understand the nuance of those local markets and understand the different strategies we recommend for our clients in different tier cities. So there is a lot happening in China, and innovation is at an incredible pace. At Highlink, we help brands with their first steps into China, getting those basics right. But for this session, we're going to focus on a bit more of the future and more advanced activity to give you a sort of taste for what fashion brands are doing there and that innovation. So in particular, we're going to look at NFT. And as a quick recap, for those of you who are unfamiliar, the different phases of the web and where it's got to where it is now and how China's embracing it. So obviously we started off with Web 1, which is like the read-only version of the web, think, static websites. We then have Web 2. Best way to summarize this is the interactivity, so think social media. But Web 3 is where we're at now, is where it's getting really interesting. So at this stage, it's about moving users away from centralized platforms, from the tech giants, and more towards decentralized, more anonymous platforms. And this is where global fashion brands are beginning to experiment at a really interesting space. Now, we have to put a lens of China on this. It's important to note that NFTs have their own characteristics there. So by NFT, I mean non-fungible token. And because it is such a new topic, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about a lot of this already, but it's interesting where China is taking this. So because cryptocurrency is not allowed in China, NFTs are often referred to as digital collectibles. So basically you can purchase an NFT, and I'll show you some examples of how fashion brands are using this, but it has to be done by traditional means, such as bank card or Alipay or WeChat Pay, instead of cryptocurrency. So that's a really key point. So Chinese NFT companies clearly have to disassociate themselves from cryptocurrencies in order to remain intact and to develop and to evolve. That's a key difference to what you see in the West. So despite this regulation, it is a booming industry, especially within the fashion sector. This year alone, it's grown 5 times its market size from the previous year. So we're going to look at sort of some key trends for fashion brands and how they're embracing this Web 3. And first of all is digital collectibles. So a quick question for you to start with. What is the top reason Chinese consumers buy digital collectibles? There's no poll here we're using on Zoom, so just have a think. One of those answers is actually a combination of all of these factors, but in particular, from the survey that was done more recently, it's consumers are most interested in the brand's IP itself. So from a marketing perspective, this is talking about the badge value, that social currency, which is so key. We also have to put this in context with the bigger picture and also the sort of political spectrum there. So Xi Jinping last year announced about blockchain being a key component to their next 5-year planning. And also this is also talks are happening at the moment. So it's crucial for their economic strategy. So this is already providing a platform for these digital collectibles to have credibility and increase their stature. And from a consumer point of view, they complement the consumer interests. 2 themes I can share with you, one being authenticity There's plenty of research to show just how important that authenticity with Gen Z consumers is, and NFTs can provide a traceability to ensure you've got the real thing, and also expression. You can have so much creativity within this Web3 and with NFTs. It allows you to personalize. It allows you to be very expressive as to how you embrace this. So how are fashion brands embracing Web3 and NFTs? Start off with a well-known British brand, Burberry. They first launched one of their NFT versions with a mascot. It was a limited edition scarf during Singles Day. This was last year. There are only 1,000 copies made available. I think what's interesting here to share with you is the real scarf in the real world was worth about 4.4 thousand RMB, so it's about 550 pounds. The NFT copy was about 2.9k RMB, so about 350 pounds. So again, still an expensive item which people were buying, but that equivalent comparison is interesting to note. Also earlier this year, there's a street brand called Definex. They collaborated with some artists, in this case, Chile, for a tiger themed collection. You could basically either buy the collectible through buying the physical merchandise, or if you spend more than 200 RMB on the Tmall store, you get access to it. From a marketing perspective, this is really interesting. They got 17 million hashtag mentions on Weibo. So you can now see how NFTs also act as a marketing tool for your brand. Another example here, 361 Degrees. They partnered with a domestic toy brand, Fatco, and there are a series of about 5 collectibles. This actually racked up over 40 million views on Weibo, again, just showing that potential of an awareness building piece on top of embracing that innovation. And I'm sure many of you have heard about the Bored Ape Yacht Club brand co-branding with Li Ning. This was an interesting case study. I wanted to share this because it's basically employing in reverse. So they have a reverse approach. They materialized the virtual IP, granting it real life value. So making intangible IP tangible by putting it on t-shirts. So, this is a really good example of, you'll be hearing more about new retail, O2O strategy. So that's online to offline. China is really pioneering in this digital ecosystem where you're bringing brand experiences from offline to online and online to offline. So some key learnings from a digital collectible point of view. Being involved in NFTs now is preparing fashion brands for the new internet age. So, there's plenty of case studies I could share with you, just a selection just a moment ago. But, this theme of social commerce as well, it's seeing triple-digit growth in China over the past 5 years. It's here to continue to evolve, and NFTs will play a central role of that. Price, they have no design limit, NFTs. So there's no shape, there's no material, there's no, physical overhead costs other than development costs. Yes, they are complex to produce, but, it does open up a new sort of pricing strategy. You can also allow then younger consumers based in those lower tier 2-3 cities to have access to a brand, for example, like the Burberry scarf, if you can't afford the real thing. And also a status point, they are unique. There's only one customer that owns it. And it also plays into other Gen Z and millennial themes such as sustainability. There's minimal environmental impact or carbon footprints. So these are already, resonating themes. Theme 2 I want to share with you is another key area of focus of NFTs, how they can be gamified. So quick question, how many gamers live in China? Have a quick think. Population's over 1 billion. There are over 665 million active gamers. That is an astonishing number. What does this mean? If there's that many people already tapping into that $300 billion gaming sector, that means gamers are already placing value on the digital ecosystem, and they understand that value, that that scarcity, that traceability of an NFT. They get the concept immediately. So embracing gamification is a way that fashion brands, luxury brands we see are accessing a younger demographic, and also the world's largest gaming demographic in the world. So it's complex to create these NFTs, but you'll see a lot of collaborations and partnerships being created to counteract. So I'm going to share with you some of those collaborations now. Again, really good example from Burberry, partnering with Mythical Games to launch a collection within the Blanco's Block Party. It's basically a multiplayer game and it features these digital vinyl toys known as Blancos that are live on the blockchain. So Burberry did a limited edition. This is the character here called Sharky B. You could purchase him, you can upgrade him, you can trade him with other games in the marketplace. In all, there are over 2,000 NFTs sold within 30 seconds of launch. And you could also purchase offline some of the prints, which are designed for Sharky B. Again, another really good example for that new retail O2O opportunity for brands. Based off the success of that, earlier this year, Burberry also launched a second NFT with Blanco's Block Party. This time it was a limited edition one with a unicorn named Mini B. And again, this was hugely popular, and it had an O2O element again. So you're rewarded with a free monogram bucket hat if you made this purchase. Louis Vuitton is also in on the action. So this game they produced, Louis the Game, basically it's a sort of, think of it as a sort of Zelda or Fortnite style game where you go around and explore this ecosystem, and you pick up collectible candles and you discover more about the brand's history. And from here, I mean, we saw it was 500,000 downloads within the first week of launch. So again, most of this came from China, so it shows that appetite for gamification. So some key takeaways here. You've got to think from the brand perspective. We shared before, you already have that fan base in China set up. So it's a really good way to think about how you monetize your brand in the future. And from the consumer standpoint, there was a recent McKinsey survey. It said more than half of Gen Z, which is one of the strongest consumer groups in China, said that they preferred brands that offer customization. So this is a really good way that brands can offer that customization and make it really unique and bespoke for that Gen Z consumer. So next up is about authenticity. This is a really key theme here. So quick question, what percentage of Chinese shoppers are excited by the traceability of NFTs? If you guess 58%, you're correct. Authenticity is really pushing a key narrative in the luxury and fashion industry. And this is all about, the traceability of that luxury good. From a brand's perspective, you're not going to lose visibility on the profitability of the product after the sale. You can follow it all the way through the product life cycle. From the consumer perspective, again, it offers that transparency, so you can really track that you've got the real thing. So here's an example from Nike with RTFKT. It's a digital sneaker brand building these sneakers in the metaverse. So they launched 10 pairs of Air Force Ones, which entitles you to a sort of a physical pair and a pair in the metaverse. And at the back of the heel of the real shoe, it has a code reader, and you can link it to the on-chain asset. What's interesting to share with you here is, if this technology had existed back in the 80s when Air Force Ones were originally sold, the product life cycle, the company Nike could have sort of tracked it along their way. You can buy a pair of Air Force Ones now for about $13,000 on eBay. So if Nike had, if NFT had existed back then and they'd traced it through, Nike has still received a royalty, a cut of that every time that product was sold, and the NFT badge with it. So, this is also a revenue stream for brands, which is quite interesting. Another example here from Burberry, collaborating with some calligraphy artists, and again, bringing it from an O2O perspective. But big brands are seeing the importance of this, your LVMHs, your Prada groups. They're investing in Aura, which is like a consortium where you can track the products. About 30% of their products are already on this platform, and within the next few years, they want to get all of them on there. So there'll be one go-to point of checking for authenticity. This sort of solution to follow the entire life cycle of a luxury good. So some key learnings here around authenticity. You have the trust element. There is the data that shows the transparency, which is so important to Gen Z consumers. Plenty of research on that. And also being transparent about the life cycle, how they've been made. This is really key in the narrative around fashion brands. Understanding the importance of that is going to convince your consumers more readily. Also, from an insight point of view, you're going to see the complete life cycle of your product and your item that you're selling. You can understand your consumer better from this. A deeper insight into your consumer is always a good thing to understand how best to retarget them. We spoke about the sort of extended profit This digital tagging, this IDing means you can receive future royalties on your product. But then there's also ramifications to be aware of. You know, one theme that's emerged is I think about over 80% of counterfeits worldwide originate from China. It's about a $400 billion worth of goods. And obviously Chinese factories will be the main source of these fakes, and NFTs will seek to eliminate that. So how will that transition occur seamlessly? Will it really extinguish the fake market? You know, some fakes have actually helped raise the awareness of certain brands in China. So, you know, there will be impact of any technology such as this. So lastly, looking at the evolution of digital platforms, how are brands embracing this now? Here's an example of Douyin embracing some virtual reality and trying on new products within this ecosystem. Here's an example of innovation from Red Xiaohongshu. They've created virtual fashion designers and shows and putting NFTs exclusively for sale within, you know, certain fashion weeks. There's a lot to share on that. Anyway, closing thoughts. Appreciate I've shared a lot with you there, and that's to give you a taste of the future of how fashion brands are embracing the digital ecosystem. But those key themes, again, just to share sustainability, it's key for Gen Z millennials, you know, key themes to resonate with them. There's a profitability element. There's the innovation, you know, brands that are experimenting in this space, you know, are it's enabling them to push boundaries, and China is, you know, an experimenting pit, a sort of sandpit for them to do this. There are cons. A lot of it is, you know, development and tech related, but I think there's policy ambiguity around, you know, how China will regulate NFT, but we'll still continue to see brands experiment in this space. I think a lot of brands will want to see how they can monetize NFTs, but obviously with that regulation at the moment, as a marketing and awareness piece alone, it's already proving effective for some brands. So just lastly, as I mentioned, you know, those of you watching today, some of you will be new to China. Yes, we can help you with your first steps into China, but actually what we shared with you today was more advanced. So have a think about where you are, what stage you're in into your China journey. Be aware of these emerging themes and how you can tap into them, for example, sustainability or Web3. You've really got to keep pace of, you know, that latest innovation and understand how China can be an experiment pit for you. And there's always been regulation. You know, you need to work with a trusted partner, working with CBBC, DIT, companies like Highlink, to make sure you understand on the ground what's happening so you can keep ahead of them. And this is a taste of how we help brands. But overall, hopefully you've learned a nugget of the future of China, and obviously what will also be happening here in the West, and how consumers are embracing that digital ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thank you for the super useful, interesting insights on the NFT. I think is NFT the direction of the future for fashion? I think that's the question for all of us, for consumers and brands. If you do have any questions on digital marketing, you know who to go to. So we will share the deck of today's presentation after consulting with all the speakers. And if you do need to get in touch with any of the speakers, do let us know. So next one, let's please join me to welcome Max. Max is the Senior Intellectual Property Officer, China Attaché Team at the British Consulate General in Shanghai. Based in Shanghai, Max joined the China Attaché Team of the UK Intellectual Property Office in August 2018. As the Senior Intellectual Property Officer, he leads the Attaché Team's business-focused activities, briefing British stakeholders on the IP landscape in China and providing strategic one-to-one IP advice. Before joining the UK IP office, Max worked in the Department for International Trade as Senior Trade and Investment Officer for the retail and consumer sector. So let's hear about the assistance available on the IP area from the consulate. Max.
Thank you. Sorry, can I ask James just to switch off the screen sharing so I can do mine?
Yep, screen sharing's back with the host.
Thank you very much. So, can you see that? Is it working properly?
Yes, it's working, Max.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone. Good morning to everyone in the UK and afternoon for those in China. As Ran introduced, my name is Max Zhang. I'm the senior IP officer based in Shanghai Consulate. I'm based in Shanghai Consulate, but I represent the China IP attaché team of the UK Embassy in China. I'm really glad that we have this IP topic included in this great session. As Ran introduced, I have a long history of working with fashion brands. I used to be in the DIT retail team. I was the guy covering the fashion industry at the time on the ground. So long history of working with brands on the trade side. And after I joined the IP team, I also worked with a number of UK brands, big and small brands, on the specific IP cases, IP enforcement cases. And I say about 30% of all of the IP inquiries coming to IP team are actually from the fashion industry. And I think people are all aware that traditionally the fashion brands are the obvious target of infringers. So counterfeiters and copycat brands are always targeting fashion brands. So I fully appreciate the huge demand, huge need from industry for a clearer guidance on helping the brands to navigate the Chinese IP system. So really glad that we have this included in this great session. For the next 10 minutes, I'll give you a very quick intro of the role and function of China IP attaché team. I think it's pretty important for you to be aware of the existence of our team and the support that is available to you. And then I try to use the rest of my time to share a little bit more insight, a very high level insight on how to protect IP in China in the fashion industry. So our team, the parents, the China IP attaché team's parent department is the Intellectual Property Office, the IPO, which is the IP authority of the UK. So if you do apply for your IP rights, the trademark or design in the UK, your applications will be examined and be granted by my colleagues in the Newport. Then there are various kind of IP support available within the territory of the UK to the companies. But beyond the territory of the UK, there are various teams deployed in major jurisdictions across the world. It's not only in China, we also have our equivalent teams in India, in Southeast Asia, in Middle East, in US, in Latin America, and in Geneva. So obviously, if you have questions about China IP, ask me. But if you have questions for other jurisdictions, we have an attaché team. I'm more than happy to connect you with my colleagues. So in China, we are a team of 4. Other than me, there are 3 colleagues based in the UK, based in the Beijing embassy, including the attaché. The day-to-day work is more focusing on the policy side, while I'm focusing, as Ran introduced, I'm focusing on the business support. What I mean by policy, it means we monitor and we research we research the latest development in the Chinese IP system, and we translate those development into intel reporting that UK stakeholder would understand. And we do engage with Chinese IP authorities, our counterparts, the Chinese IP administration, and all of the IP enforcement bodies on a day-to-day basis. We try to leverage all kinds of government-to-government dialogue opportunity to push forward the IP discussion topics the UK is interested to have. And as a result of the policy work, we do have a range of ready-made products. So fact sheets, toolkit, which basically is non-disclosure agreement templates. And we do also have newsletters and other documentations available on the embassy IP page. The link is available on the right-hand side. We will share the deck afterwards. If you can't find, if you're interested in any of them, you can't identify them, feel free to drop me an email. I'm more than happy to share that with you. And then it's a one-to-one business support work, which I'm leading on. It means we not only provide you, the people, with ready-made self-service information, we can also provide brands with one-to-one consultation. Bear in mind that none of our team is qualified IP lawyers, so we can't give you specific professional service level support. So like if you want some specific comments on your contract with your partner, or if you want someone to help you with the application form of a trademark, this is something we can't help you because we're not qualified lawyer, but we are able to give you background insights, generalized information about Chinese system, and some of our experience and knowledge about system. We are happy to talk you through those issues. Because I think we're in a very interesting position. We've seen so many. We support over 100 UK companies every year for their IP issues, all different issues. So we've seen a lot. We've seen so many different typical pitfalls other UK companies fell through, and we've seen all those cases, and we're very happy to share that level of insight with you. And other than the one-to-one consultation, in certain cases, we can also consider help you to facilitate you some of your communication with the IP authority. This need to be assessed on case-by-case basis. There are some scenarios where Chinese IP system doesn't work properly. I can give you one example. So many years ago, there was a famous UK university who wanted to apply for a trademark in China. Their application was rejected by the Chinese Trademark Office outright, simply because this university was incorporated under a different name because of the existence of an ancient UK English law. The university was incorporated in a different name, so when they applied the trademark under that different name, the examiners thought it is a bad faith application from a relevant party. So the university approached us, and we helped them to communicate with the trademark office. We highlight the fact that this is actually the same university, and forwarded the evidence of the original English law to demonstrate that. So it worked out in the review stage. There are other scenarios we can provide direct support, but as I said, we need to assess it on case-by-case basis. I can't give you a very precise range of what things we can help or what things we can't help, as it's not a standardized service. We have to assess it case-by-case, on case-by-case basis. I think what I can say is, if you are facing troubles within the Chinese IP system, if you think some of the ruling you receive is not fair, or think you're not properly treated, I don't think there is any loss you would suffer by approaching us and flagging us the issue. So we can talk through that. We can assess that assess whether an embassy support is possible. This is the introduction of our service. And then a little bit on the very high level stuff on IP protection in China. What I put on screen is the standard, the classic 5-step mitigating IP risk presentation here, which I don't think I can present in detail because I think we only have a few minutes left. There will be a full presentation. If you're interested in a full presentation, there will be a full presentation planned on 31st of October under the DIT's International Trade Week. If you're interested, I can share the registration link along with this deck, and you will be more than welcome to join us. Obviously, China is an enormous market in terms of size, speaking not only about the physical market, but also the online market. You keep hearing that from other speakers today. China has also likely the biggest fashion fashion manufacturing capacity in the world. So if they want to replicate anything, they have the capacity to do that. So I think regardless which angle you see it, I think it's pretty fair to say that once you are determined to enter China market, once you start to do all the promotion in the Chinese media, you are immediately exposed to both of the biggest opportunity as well as the biggest risk of potential infringement from day one. I know a lot of people would be quite nervous about that fact. our key message here is if you take proper and if you take sufficient precautionary measures, most of the regular IP risks can be mitigated to a manageable level. I guess many of the audience today here are in the early stage of your China journey, so you do have the luxury to prepare properly in beforehand. Some of your predecessors came here with less preparation, which is not necessarily their fault if you put yourself in their shoes 20 or 30 years ago. But they came with less preparation, and they ended up with a lot of IP troubles that could have been avoided in the first place. In terms of how you can protect your products as part of the preparation I just mentioned, you can always ask yourself two questions. The first question: do I own the right? Do I own the legal ground to enforce the right in China? You should mind the territorial nature of IP. So the trademark, the design, and patents, they're all territorial nature. What you register in the UK would not provide you sufficient protection in China automatically. So the second question is, if I don't have that yet, can I or should I register them now? The registrability, but whether you can register your, say, the design in the Chinese system would depend on a lot of factors. And it may well be the case that you can't register your design in the end. You will face, I assume you will face a similar challenge when you deal with other jurisdictions. So in that case, what will be the alternative route to protect my products? Can I rely on the copyright to protect them? I can't give you a definitive answer here, but what you need to do is you need to have a very clear understanding in the beginning. You need to review your products and have a very clear understanding on which parts, which elements of your product can be protected under which right, and do you really have the right registered. All of your production protection strategy should be based on that very clear understanding. And the other part is obviously the protection of your brand, which you can translate to the protection of your trademark. You would have a much more straightforward answer on this aspect. You should register your trademark very early, in the early stage. You should register whatever you can register as early as possible. Because obviously, every penny you spend on marketing, you're literally spending them on your trademark, which differentiates your brand with others. It will be very unsafe if you start marketing, but you don't, before you have exclusively owned that trademark. You should think about it comprehensively. So you should think about any important marks. So the word marks, the logo marks, the English marks, the Chinese mark, different combinations of them, as long as it will be used on your products. Maybe your product name, maybe the nickname that is popular among your fans. You should think about registering them early. And you probably should also think about something like the unique shape of your products, the color. Even that 3D mark and color mark are they're quite rare in the Chinese system, and they're relatively difficult to register. These type of marks do exist in the Chinese law, and it's probably still worth considering them in early stage. And we don't have much time, but last but not the least, you should consider very carefully about how you manage your relationship with your partner. You should be very careful in determining what IP you would need to share with them, and be very clear in through a contract, through an enforceable contract, that who will own what, especially in terms of the new IP you would generate during your cooperation in China. I think I've already overrun a lot, so probably finish here. So as I just advertised, there will be a full presentation on the 31st of October and the International Trade Week's agenda. Everyone here today is more than welcome to join us for the session. I'm also more than happy to take questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Max, for the introduction of all the help that's available on the IP side. As Max mentioned, there will be an International Week delivered by the IT team. We will have a speaker to elaborate more on that. But next one, let's also hear from Ying. Ying is the president.
Hello.
Sorry about that. Here we go.
有什么问题？
Sorry about that.
要不咱们先关一下，会是我们的。
Okay, it seems okay. Sorry about the noise. Yeah, let's welcome Ying. Ying is the President's Assistant of China Fashion Association, our delivery partner for today's forum and also tomorrow and day after tomorrow's matchmaking. And she is also the director of China Fashion IP Protection Center. The China, Ying, I will just introduce the CFA briefly for you. China Fashion IP Protection Center, which offers IP protection to fashion brands and original designers, was jointly founded in 2019 by the CFA and the China Trademark Association. The center hosts China's fashion IP conference every year and regularly publishes white papers about fashion IP protection. Aiming to promote IP protection in China's fashion industry, the center draws from worldwide expertise to focus on sensitive issues regarding IP protection and in the fashion industry. Ying, over to you for the next 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Ying Wang from China Fashion IP Protection Center. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm Ying Wang from China Fashion IP Protection Center. It's my pleasure to participate in this forum. The China-Britain Business Council has always been our important partner. Now let me introduce CFI-PPC. My introduction is divided into 4 parts. First of all, in 2019, China Fashion Association and China Trademark Association jointly set up CFI-PPC in Beijing. The center is composed of 4 working committees: decision-making and the strategic advisory committee, expert advisory committee, technical and platform services committee, as well as international cooperation committee. Now let us take a look at our 2 important partners. Number 1, China Fashion Association. CFA is founded in 1993. It is a national association approved by and registered with the Ministry of Civil Affairs. It is a national industrial and non-profitable social organization voluntarily formed by fashion designers, professionals, well-known fashion brands, fashion media, and model agencies. The next one is China Trademark Association. CTA is founded in 1994. It's also a national professional association and trademark agency organization approved by the Ministry of Civil Affairs. It is responsible for the promoting trademark policies and laws, promoting social trademark brand awareness, strengthening the self-discipline of trademark agency industry, assisting trademark brand construction, and promoting international communication of trademark brands. Okay, the second part, let me describe the mission and the vision. Our center aims to gather forces from all walks of life around the world with focus on the sensitive issues of IP rights in the fashion industry, promoting the process of fashion IP protection in China through the promulgation of practical protection measures and the implementation plans, and jointly protecting the good order of global fashion property rights with international counterparts. Thirdly, CFI-PPC has made great effort to promote IP protection in China and has carried out relevant businesses. Now let me introduce our developing strategy. The first one is International Fashion IP Dialogue Mechanism. The Protection Center has established long-term cooperative relations with fashion industry associations and institutions in various countries, and actively organizes and participates in international fashion activities. through establishing a regular dialogue mechanism with fashion institutions at home and abroad to discuss the topic of fashion industry IP, establish dialogue channels and provide legal assistance for fashion enterprises from home and abroad. Next one is Fashion IP Protection Platform. The platform gives the Protection Center gives a full play to the professional advantage of its multi-industry platform and cooperative institution, link high-quality resources at home and abroad, provide one-stop IP services for fashion industry practitioners, and provide multi-channel dispute resolution for enterprises. In October 2020, the Protection Center established the Fashion IP Protection Platform, www.fashionip.cn. The platform is based on copyright blockchain and artificial intelligence technology for fashion and related creative enterprises and original designers. It provides comprehensive services such as blockchain storage, copyright monitoring, judicial evidence collection, legal rights protection, copyright registration, etc., and provides one-stop copyright solution to protect registered users of platform. The last part is about, the third one is Fashion Industry IP Annual Report. The annual report is launched by the Strategic Advisory Committee of the Protection Center, which has been issued for 2 consecutive periods by organizing experts and scholars to focus on the analysis of the general situation and focus issues of IP rights in the fashion industry, providing references and suggestions for responsible government department, industry association, and enterprises from the perspective of big data of IT rights. The last part is about suggestion on the protection of international fashion industry IP rights. In the field of IP, strengthening the protection of well-known trademark and preventing bad faith registration of well-known trademark has always been the main focus of all international fashion brand owners. The center plans to unite the organizers of the world leading international fashion weeks and fashion associations in relevant countries to establish a global brand protection alliance in the next 3 to 5 years. The alliance will coordinate the major countries' fashion industry associations to recognize and release the list of domestic famous fashion brands and the international famous fashion brands, and issue united certification and support documents to support these brand owners in different countries' legal procedure to claim the protection of well-known trademark and fight against faith registration. The above is what I share today. Thank you for listening. I hope that more enterprises will join in the work of IP protection. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Ying. Thank you. Right. For the next 10 minutes, I'll be having our colleagues at DIT, Paul and Iris, who are from the international, the Export Support Service International Markets SM team. SM is a very interesting and super useful service line that DIT are having. So please, please let's welcome Paul and Iris. Paul is the head of Export Support Service International Markets SM. And Iris is from the same team, and she is the support officer of this program. So let's welcome Paul and Iris.
Great, thank you very much, Ron, and thank you everyone for your time this morning. So as Ron has said, we run the Export Support Service here in China. This is a really exciting service which gives you direct in-market access to DIT support. So I'll talk briefly about what the content of the service is, and then I'll hand over to my colleague Iris, who'll talk about how you can actually access the support that we're able to offer. So SM provides customized support to our clients, which comprises initially a consultation with a member of our team of advisors, All of our advisors are based in China and are sector-specific experts, so that consultation takes place online by video. We then follow up with written advice, so that consists of a summary of the consultation you've had, provides you also links to various guides that we've produced within our service. So you can see an example of some of them here on the screen. So this can cover areas such as e-commerce, how to protect your IP, which Max has covered in a previous session this morning, and also very sector-specific market reports, both produced internally and externally. Very typically as well, we introduce our clients to third-party service providers who are registered with us, who have undergone some kind of sifting process to make sure that they're able to provide the level of services that we expect. And again, this can follow a range of various areas of support, including registering your IP, legal services, also ranging through to things like establishing a presence through recruitment and that kind of thing. One of the reasons this support service is so fantastic is not just the tailored advice that we're able to give to each and every client, but also the quick turnaround that we have. So you can see at the bottom that once a client submits an inquiry, we confirm within 2 working days that we've accepted you into the service. And we're happy to say that in 99% of cases, we do accept our inquiries into the SM service. And then after that, within 5 working days, one of our advisors will reach out to you to arrange a time convenient to yourselves to have the consultation. Finally, one of the attractive areas of this support we're able to give is that it's completely free of charge to our users, and there's no commitment on your part apart from following through on the consultation. Beyond that, there's no commitment to take this further. So that's a brief overview of what the service can provide. And now Iris will talk briefly about how can you access this wonderful service.
Thank you, Paul. So to submit an inquiry for this service, you just need to simply fill in an online form by scanning this QR code. I believe this presentation will be shared with you later, so don't worry about losing the link. So in this online form, you will be asked to provide some basic information about your business and also your export experience. We do have some minimum requirements for our clients, but as Paul just mentioned earlier, 99% of the chance you will be eligible for the service, because we want to support as many UK business as possible to come to the China market. So if you are in any doubt or you want to learn more about the service, just feel free to contact us via this mailbox listed on the screen, China Export Support. And then we will be able to answer any questions you have about the service itself or exporting to China in general. And also, as Max mentioned earlier in the IP session, there will be an International Trade Week coming up from October the 31st to November the 4th. Well, we will have 7 webinars, and then they will cover topics like IP and also e-commerce, and then how to establish a presence in China. So if you're interested in learning more, just feel free to contact us from via this mailbox again. We will send you more details about this International Trade Week. So here are all the content from our service. And then, as I mentioned, just hope we can hear from you and then support you with your journey to the China market.
Okay.
Thank
you very much.
Let me stop sharing.
Thank you, Paul and Iris. Do tune into the International Week delivered by Paul and his team, I think towards the end of this month. So next session is very exciting. So we'll be having a panel discussion session led by our moderator today, Simon Collins. And joining us, we have Maeve Galvin from the Fashion Revolution, Dr. Chen, who's the founder of Extra Room, and Mei Mei, who's the CEO at DFO. So allow me 1 or 2 minutes to introduce our moderator today and 3 panelists. So Simon is the Chief Creative Officer at Design Innovation Institute Shanghai. He is a creative advisor, keynote speaker, board member, distinguished professor, writer, former dean at Parsons in New York, and creative director at Nike in Asia. He chaired the advisory board of the Global Trends Group, WGSN, and the advised WME, IMG, and the CFA. Between 2016 and 17, he founded the Fashion Cultural Design UN Conference in New York and the global design education platform WeDesign.org. Simon has spoken at Gone Alliance in France and the United Nations and has been featured in Forbes, WWD, China Daily, and the New York Times. Simon's book, The School of Fashion, was published by Asulina in 2014. Hi, Simon. I'm sure you're among us. And Maeve, hi. Maeve is the Global Policy and Campaigns Director at Fashion Revolution. She manages the Good Clothes Fair Play project on living wages in the fashion sector. She has worked on social and environmental sustainability for the past 12 years across NGOs and the UN, and has previously worked at the International Labour Organization. Maeve also managed the CNA Foundation's Workers' Empowerment and Transparency Partnerships in Bangladesh and Myanmar. So a lot of experience in sustainability and transparency. Welcome, Maeve. And we have today Dr. Chen. Dr. Chen is a lecturer of luxury marketing at the Haikou University of Economics, fashion marketing management and fashion entrepreneurship at the Raffles Design Institute in Singapore, and advanced fashion design at the China Academy of Art. She has worked as global buying manager at Li & Fung Group in Europe and as a consultant for the Shanghai Metis Bongwei supply chain SAP system implementation project. Dr. Chen started her fashion business in 2011 and founded the X Showroom B2B platform. She has won numerous awards, such as the Shanghai Technology Innovation Fund for SMEs, the Special Fund for Cultural Development of Chinese District Shanghai, the Guangzhou Fashion Week New Power Platform Award, and the Shenzhen Service Fair Market Potential Award. Welcome, Dr. Chen. I like your background. I like your setting. And last but not least, we have Mei Mei. Mei Mei is the CFO at DFO International and DFO 360. Mei Mei is the founder of these platforms. DFO has developed and executed customized strategies for fashion brands to drive market development and localization in China since 2014. DFO has permanent offices in Europe and Shanghai, and Mei Mei, I believe, is Europe-based. And its services include wholesale, PR, and social media, e-commerce, retail development, crossover collaborations, and financing. DFO operates one of the largest multi-level showrooms at Shanghai Fashion Week with a competitive international brand portfolio. So it's absolutely our honor to have Simon and the three distinguished panelists. The floor is over to you, Simon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. So look, I want to talk about the future of fashion. Now, it doesn't just mean the future of fashion, because fashion affects all of us, not least young people. And of course, much of what the new business is about is attracting young people. So I feel like talking about the future of fashion is going to help people to perhaps understand the behavior of young people. And I'd like to do that by talking about sustainability. Now, people can argue whether sustainability is important or not. I don't frankly care, because I think it is important, and I think it's important for us to talk about that, because without it, there won't be any us or any future business. So people typically build up slowly to a conversation like this, but I think that we should start right at the top and ask ourselves, what's working? We all believe in sustainability. We've all been around for a while. What have we seen that's working, that's giving us a little bit of encouragement towards a sustainable future with regard to the fashion business? And I can name names, but if one of you wants to jump in, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm happy to point at somebody.
I can start, Simon, and thank you everyone for having
me.
You, yeah, I suppose in the what's working category, and obviously I'm coming at this from a campaigner, civil society perspective, but having been in this sector a while, the moves towards greater transparency are genuinely better now than they were a few years ago. For example, we do a huge index every year of the world's largest fashion brands, and we measure how transparent they are, not how sustainable they are. And you know, back in 2016, it was really, really difficult to get brands to disclose, for example, their first tier supplier lists in their supply chain. Whereas now 48% of major brands are disclosing their first tier supplier lists. There's a long way to go in terms of transparency. We still have an average score on our index of 24% overall. So there's huge opportunities for leaders in this space connected to transparency. But I am encouraged that the pushing and cajoling and the conversations we were having about transparency a few years ago, and sort of revealing your supplier list being equated with revealing business secrets, for example, we have the conversation is much more sophisticated and is much more advanced. And I think a lot, you know, the most advanced thinking, and it's almost mainstream thinking, is that being transparent with your consumers and the broader, you know, advocacy public is a key component of doing business.
So
and it's a starting point to
Maeve?
sustainability.
Why are they being transparent? What's in it for them?
I think a lot of pushing and cajoling has gotten us to this point. And I think we probably had the first wave of adopters from sort of maybe the more fringe, the more progressive businesses, and then the mainstream slightly followed. It's a long journey to go, though, and we would really say that transparency is the bare minimum. But it is encouraging that it is an area that we can identify genuine progress.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see that. I love the progress. I love startup fashion, sustainable brands, etc. But I don't think that's going to change anything. You know, I don't want to be cynical, but being brutally realistic, it just doesn't look like it's going to change anything, because it's just incremental and small. And you know, when you go into a big fashion store and there's a little tiny box for recycling in the corner, but it's a 2,000 square meter store, it's not changing anything. So I don't want to be negative about it, but I don't think it's the solution. So what I'm interested in is, what are we seeing that's inspiring that could be part of the solution? Mei and Cherry, have you seen anything that gives you cause for optimism?
Yeah, thank you. I quite agree with Mei that it's actually the ultimate user of the whole, we say, supply chain or the value chain is the end consumer, of course. So in order to enable the consumers to participate actually in this sustainable fashion we talk about, we should first make it attractive from the consumer's perspective, right? To provide like more interesting way. But how to do that is actually down to the brands, to the companies, enterprises to think about how to do that. For example, I just take an example because this is actually happened to me. So one of the brands, I'm not going to name the brands, is using a new technology, called, actually I bought it. It's called a Senti logo. It's very simple. Actually, it's just a QR code, right? It's a QR code. So when the customer, when they scan the QR code, right, they will be direct to the official website. They will say, oh, it is authentic, authorized retailer or not. So the brands only adopt this when the problem going too huge, when there are so many fake products in and already disrupt the market. So I think it's only, the brands or the enterprise, when they actually feel their urge to do that, then they will find their own way to attract the customers.
I think what you've alluded to there is, for me, is the key, which is money, right? So brands will be sustainable right after it becomes more profitable to be sustainable than to not be sustainable. And that's sort of what's driving me. And I've been on the edges of sustainability for many years now, and I used to be committed to sort of the more grassroots side of it. But now I find myself much more drawn to trying to figure out how to get the legislation passed, because I've not yet come across, apart from Patagonia, I haven't yet come across a corporation that will actually put sustainability before money.
Yeah.
May, what do you think? What have you seen?
Well, I think I'm both cynical and idealistic. I think I have that combination because I work with emerging designers where I see just really amazing creativity. And I'm also cynical because I work on the market side. So I have a fair share of each. What do I think? I think it's down to a lifestyle choice. So, and I think if that lifestyle choice is popular enough and the threshold to consuming or to living up to this lifestyle choice is digestible, then I think the formula will work. It's always a formula.
But when you say a lifestyle choice, you mean the consumer gets to choose? Because right now you can't choose because there isn't very much available. So you don't have that choice. And,
Yeah,
and to be honest, right, and again, I'm going to be a little bit nearly negative. I've not sat in an audience yet where if you said who's going to pay a bit more for a sustainable version, people really will. They really want you to think they will, and they really wish they would, but they won't. And I've yet to have it prove different.
I think it takes time. I was interviewed by, I took an interview a few weeks ago precisely on this topic. And then I was interviewed because we've been selling upcycling products for many years and we had a lot of, challenges and hurdles. But, I kind of drew the parallel between fashion and organic foods. You guys probably all remember like 15, 20 years ago, organic foods were very expensive and they didn't taste good. So you can't convince children that this crumbly, tasteless piece of bread is healthier for you. So you should eat it and it's more expensive. Do you know what I mean? But 15, 20 years later, things are tasty, they're packaged well. It's still a little bit more expensive, but you do get consumers. Well, some are more expensive, some are not, because you have a lot of farmers who are selling directly to consumers without all the middle parties. So there are creative models, prices have come down, they're more attractive. I always go to children because you can't force children to take something they don't want. If it tastes bad, it just tastes bad. It doesn't matter if it's like really healthy, do you know what I mean? So I think with sustainable fashion, it also takes time. And I see it as more of a cultural movement. So, because fashion is a cultural movement. So recently,
you're right. Yeah.
And also,
I think convincing people is critical.
It is. And there are trade models that can support new ways of creation. That's the other thing I want to point to. So you
that's critical. We'll come to that. I just want to ask Maeve. Maeve, have you seen workers' models that can be just as profitable or more so and be sustainable? Because that's a fundamental part of sustainability, right? We want people to be protected. I don't think we're in a culture where people care very much, and if they do, it's very superficial. But as soon as it becomes more profitable for a corporation to have a sustainable working model, then I think they'll jump on it, right? That's what they do. So in your experience, have you seen evidence where that can be done? Just sort of taking out the compassion of it.
Yeah, no, to be honest, because I think the challenge has been that fashion specifically has made its profitability largely on driving down low labor costs. And it's why we have such a proliferation of poverty wages. And it's why, sourcing practices are connected to the scramble for cheap labor. So in terms of like where fashion gets its wealth from and where fashion makes sacrifices, it's all too often been on the hands of the workers, and there's decades of evidence to support that. So other than kind of pockets of innovation here and there, I think the business case for paying workers and valuing their contributions adequately hasn't been very strong. And probably what's going to get us there is not companies voluntarily deciding to share profitability with workers, but actually, as you said, probably regulation. And I am encouraged that, 10 years ago, almost, when Rana Plaza happened, the conversations about doing anything binding on big corporations was controversial, even in that context where more than 1,000 people lost their lives. But now we are seeing regulators and policymakers in places like the EU, the US, and elsewhere step up, for fashion and beyond, and kind of say, actually, this is an industry that voluntary measures and self-regulation hasn't really worked. And as you say, it's far easier to be a company that isn't driven by these concerns than it is to be a company that is. And actually, we need to create a level playing field for companies to do who want to do the right thing. And really, you know,
So-
a lot of my faith would be in regulation, you know, with the caveats that we need it to be decent regulation and meaningful regulation.
Yeah. All right. So I think if we understand that, then that's not going to solve it, right? Because we're just not going to make more money being sustainable at this stage. So in that case, how do we make it more desirable? Because people will, as you were saying, Mei, about organic food, it's become the norm right now. Everyone just wants organic food, and it's become very affordable because it's so big, not quite as cheap as the cheap stuff, but it still works. You know, that it feels like that's how true it is, I don't know, but it feels like the argument's been made and won there. So in that spirit, how do we create fashion that is sustainable and people want to buy it, but not because it's sustainable? Because I don't believe anyone's going to buy anything just because it's sustainable, right? And I think, you know, you look at the market and you think, all right, who's doing a good job? And Patagonia, of course, we're greatly inspired by, but I'm not going to buy anything from Patagonia because I don't like it, right? They've done nothing to make it more desirable apart from just make it more conscious, which I think is wonderful. So what have we seen? And I'm thinking particularly about young Chinese brands as much as anything else. What have we seen that might inspire us to come up with ways of making sustainability more marketable and popular? You're nodding, Cherry. Tell me what you think.
Actually, you know, when we first talk about do we need more fashionable products, you inspired me like we should stop like making so many like fashionable.
Why?
Like,
I like fashion. I like fashion. No, seriously, I do. I like new clothes, right? I just don't want to ruin the world with it. I don't want to exploit anybody, but I like new clothes. I mean, I think circularity is a word that we should perhaps inject in here, because that feels like that could have some help. But have you seen? Yes.
I mean, I think this is where fashion, I am an idealist, because I think this is where fashion has a great edge, because fashion promotes and aspires to new ideas. So if there's a cool new idea that no one has seen before, where the offering comes from raw materials that are upcycled, a process that is sustainable, and the end product is desirable, the price point is just right on market, then it would work. And I have case studies about this. It won't work on the level of these mass, really, really large sort of enterprise levels, but it's going to work in its own business model. And there's a whole rise of independent designers in China, around the world. If a lot of little sustainable SMEs will work. And then there are a lot of more sort of open and direct trading processes where they're not leaning only on the traditional formats and platforms. Then I can see a little blossoming of all these, SMEs with their great ideas. And I really
this is where we come back to, I think, the question that I led with, which is, what have we seen that inspires us? For me, inspires us as a new business model. So not just, use sustainable fabric. That's great. We love that. We support it. Not just treat your workers good. We know that. We definitely should do that. These are all good things, but they're not the solution, and they're sadly in little pockets here and there. So I'll throw one out then. So I was just with Budweiser, obviously part of Ambev, the huge alcohol conglomerate, and they figured out how to use their waste hops to make vegan leather. So I think that's remarkable. That's fun. And make money. That's the key. Make money doing it. So they make profit. So it's very much in their interest to do this. Now, to me, that's like, oh, that's special, because whether it's vegan or not is not the issue here. The issue is we've got a material that is wonderfully fit for purpose, and you can do anything you need to do with it. And by the way, it's created from waste, and it can be done at scale because it's Ambev, right? They make beer all over the world. So that's the seeds of something quite big happening there. That's, I'm like, oh, make more money by being sustainable. I like that. Have we seen any others? Anything like that? Anything catch our eye?
We've seen a fair few of those kinds of innovations, and they are really, really exciting. I think, and it's very easy to geek out on them. Yet this is the challenge that I was just going to say: making them mainstream. And typically, what we tend to see with circular solutions, we have data on this actually, in terms of big brands and how many of them are communicating that they're working on circular molecular solutions, and it's something like 27% for this year. So trying to kind of get it into the mainstream is still difficult, and making sure that it's not just, a tiny collection in the broader mass production. The other thing I would say though is kind of sometimes you see these great innovations, and the business model for them tends to be kind of brand customer by brand customer. And then you end up getting the same cohort of brands who are sort of, progressive minded anyway, signing up to them. So one of the things, we get excited and then we say, but actually that, we've got 7 years on the climate here until we have apocalypse, and just moving that direction brand by brand really is challenging. So I'm really hopeful when I see open source versions of these technologies, but they are few and far between, and we need to find a way of commercializing them, of course, because we're falling back on the same business models, I think.
So, all right. So again, leaving the brands themselves aside, because I sadly don't think they're going to be the solution. The solution can conceivably be consumer demand, because brands will always respond to consumer demand. So let's talk for a minute then about what we think is going on there, because I'm interested in what are young people thinking? Do they care about sustainability? If they do, are they prepared to do anything about it? And particularly, alluding to what you mentioned, Cherry, has anyone got any interest in changing their buying habits? Because that's the problem, right? We buy too much stuff and we don't use it. But if we don't buy enough stuff, then all the workers can be as well cared for as we want. There won't be anything for them to do because there'll be nothing to make. So it's a very complex situation, and I'm intrigued by what's happening in the market. Are people actually looking at clothing differently? What do you think, Mei?
Oh, I was just wondering if Cherry dropped out. What do I think? I think it's the same. I think it's small pockets of people. I mean, I do have consumers and friends who insist on not using plastic, for example. So it is down to consumer. But I think it is really complex and a very large problem we're talking about. And we've talked about sort of policymakers. I mean, for me, it almost sounds like we're challenging the whole construct of market economy and how this works.
Yeah. I mean, how's it going to change if we don't? Right?
Really going way deep into a whole nother field. So I think from consumers or fashion brands, I mean, they do their bits, or we do our bits, but I think that the core, we all know it's a lot bigger than fashion, and it goes a lot deeper.
Yeah.
It goes way back. So I don't know if that's actually solvable, looking at the apocalypse that we're going towards. So it's a very heavy topic. Yeah, I mean,
human beings have got a habit of rescuing ourselves right in the last minute. So I'm hopeful for that. We should certainly try and avoid it.
But what I want to say is I do see a lot of changes. I see a lot of changes coming up really, really fast, but more so amongst emerging brands than the commercial giants. But I do believe from a cultural standpoint, when that wave is strong enough, you always have the underground movement, and then they make a change in the mainstream. So this is how cultural patterns develop. So I personally am waiting for that tipping point. And I really have to say, like, this time I was just in Fashion Weeks, and I saw just like a blossoming, energy of creative pursuits based on sustainable processes, sustainable materials, very innovative ways, very attractive products, and rightly priced. So,
I mean,
I'm waiting for that.
You just made me think of something actually, which has not crossed my mind before. Maybe it's all going to happen by stealth. Like maybe if brands are going to do enough sustainability that it's actually going to go past the tipping point, and we won't even know, because the big brands aren't telling everybody about it. So we don't really hear anyone else's communication, but it's just happening anyway. I'm impressed by or I'm intrigued by the electric car movement here, because that seems to be the way that I would like the fashion industry to change, whereby it was very cool to have an electric car, and then loads of local brands started doing it, and they became very good at it very quickly. And there's a major cash incentive to have an electric car, not a petrol car. That, it's like when we switched from leaded gasoline to unleaded gasoline. And if they can retool massive production factories to do that, then we don't really have any excuse. So then we come back to, I guess, how do we convince people that this is a smart thing to do? And I've been in fashion my whole life, and I had no idea how to do that, because do we get all the KOLs in China together, and because I think that things can happen here, it can't happen in the rest of the world, because we have scale, we have innovation, and we have certain legislation that sort of encourages it.
I think fashion is fashion. So at the end of the day, it needs to be either an attractive brand or an attractive product. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I love your electric car analogy, which is like, I'm a mom, so I go for organic foods, right? So we're just drawing different comparisons, but I think they are totally the right pathways. But in fashion, at the end of the day, it is a product. I don't have, a product. If I go, do you like this? You go, hey, I like it. And I go, hey, the process is sustainable, the material is sustainable. I don't need to convince you of the process or the material. You will consume it because you like it. This is our relationship to fashion. So yes, we can get the KOLs. We can do everything that we already do now in the marketing and sales strategies of fashion brands. But at the end of the day, it is the consumer's conversation and relationship with that product. So I think that
You're right.
really needs to come around. You can't convince people buy it because it is A, B, C, D, E. Yeah, you really have very few consumers who's going to shop that way, I feel.
You just made me think of another example that might be helpful as well. Chobani, the yogurt in the US. The guy that founded it was an immigrant into the US, and there's a whole anti-immigration movement over there right now. And he said, right, I'm only going to hire immigrants then. All I'm going to do, I'm not hiring anybody else. And it was very provocative, but the product is wildly successful. And unfortunately, a big political divide all around the world. And so people are sometimes not buying it as a political statement, but they have a sympathy towards it for the politics of it. The same with Ben & Jerry's, and obviously with Patagonia as well. So, and to me, that's all part of the marketing, not necessarily the conscious marketing, but that's all part of the market appeal. And so I wonder, given that here in China, designer brands, anything with a label on it is wildly successful. This is the #1 market, I guess, by now. No, #2 after the US. But what can we do to make sustainable product the thing like that? Is it a brand we can all get behind? Is it a movement, like a cultural movement? Is it an app? Given the success, the ubiquity of WeChat and other Chinese apps here, is there some way of linking into that and making sustainability something that you gamify through that? I don't know, but I feel like it's that kind of cultural shift that's needed. I see Ran, I think I might be running out of time. So why don't I say to the three of you, give us a thought, give the audience a thought to leave them with, because it's been a very interesting conversation. I've certainly enjoyed it. Maeve, what would you like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, partially, I just wonder that, the business model of unfettered growth is probably going to have to change anyway. So I do think, and with regulation coming down the line, I do think companies will be faced with a dilemma of they need to innovate or potentially not survive, and actually, producing with less resources and doing, the sustainable kind of methodologies that we're talking about. It might actually be that they have to do that to survive beyond even getting to the consumer side of things. So I, if I was running a mainstream corporation right now, I would be looking to these small innovators to try and get inspiration. Thanks.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Yeah, you've got to innovate to survive, and that's the direction you've got to go in. Thank you. Cherry, what are your last thoughts for the audience?
Yeah, I think this is what I'm doing. I think another gateway is education. So I like to share with all the audience that I've been, while working for the industry, I'm also thinking how to educate our young brands, our new designers to think in sustainable way. So I'm creating this new fashion program for one of the university in Hainan, where I'm staying right now, for the unconventional fashion design, which is sustainable fashion design program. It's for the universities. And I want to educate the students to have the talent from when they have the ability to able to tell what are the sustainable material to use from the beginning while they are choosing the fabric.
Good.
material.
Yeah. There's no doubt education is
marketing.
absolutely critical. Yeah, and they not only are they the future designers, but they're also the future consumers and the future influencers. So yeah, that you're absolutely right. Encouraging education is vital. Mei, any last thoughts?
I think I would focus on communication and market and trade platforms between brands, their innovative ideas, and consumers. Because in my experience, not all of these innovative ideas fall into the traditional trade models, and they cannot be communicated in the same way. And so that is actually my interest, how to connect all those ideas to market through innovative ways. So I would encourage brands not to give up on any great idea that's innovative, because there's so many platforms and strategies out there that you can explore and find your community and find your audience and build your businesses from there.
Yeah. Thank you, Mei. That's excellent. So this has been wonderful. I've learned a lot from the three of you. Thank you very much for letting me have your time. I guess the thing that's come out for me that's most important is if you're thinking of coming to China and doing business in the way you're used to, don't, because the old business is over, and there are new ways of doing everything now, and you need to figure out what they are. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you to the audience. Ran, back over to you.
Thank you, Simon. It was absolutely brilliant. Thank you, all the panelists, Mei, and Dr. Chen. It was very insightful session. I learned a lot as well. Thank you very much. Yeah, we have learned a lot about sustainability and transparency and how that hopefully can translate into sales. Last but not least, we're having another influence panel discussion session on influencers. We're going to have our friends who work in the influencers industry and who are influencers themselves. So let's join me and welcome Robin, who is working at the Influencer Hub International. Robin, if you're online, please turn on your camera. And we have Faye, who is a renowned influencer on Chinese social media, including Little Red Book. She has more than 90,000 followers on Little Red Book. If you know what that is, it's a renowned platform for young people, and then I'm a follower myself of Faye's account. And then we also have Steffi from UK Zone, a social media account that reports UK trends and developments from social news to celebrities to fashion trends to a young Chinese audience. And UK Zone altogether have more than 600,000 followers across all social media platforms in China. So hello, Robin and Steffi, and hopefully we have Mei, we have Faye. Do we have Faye? No, I'm sure Faye's joining us. I know she's running some technical issues. Yeah, so
the camera is not working, but then yeah, I tried to open it, but it's just not working.
Right, but you can hear us, right? And we can hear you.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's just a shame. We hope to be able to see you, but then if you're just a sound, I think that's for now. That's okay. Do follow Faye on Little Red Book. You can find her account ID on our event page. So can we have everybody introduce yourselves, please? Starting from you, maybe Robin.
Yeah. Hi, hello everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah,
yep.
Just making sure the sound works.
I can hear you.
Hi, hello. Thank you so much, Ran. Thank you very much for inviting us to join these panels. So my name is Robin. I'm the co-founder of the Influencer Hub International. So we are a influencer incubating and influencer marketing agency, and we incubate our own influencers in-house from macro and grow with the brands. And we also help brands by using social power from around the world connect with their ideal consumers. Yeah, so basically that's all about us. Yeah.
Thank you, Robin. And Steffi.
Thank you, Ran, and nice to meet you everyone today. And hi, I'm Steffi from UK Zone, and UK Zone is a Chinese WeChat official account. Since UK Zone launched online in September 2014, we have amassed over 500,000 followers. And UK Zone creates a wide range of content, not just news and current affairs from China and the UK, but also local lifestyle news, tips and events, coverage and promotion. And our aim is to provide our clients with the optimal marketing program that is tailored to suit each and every one of their needs. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Faye. I know Faye is with us, just we cannot see her. Faye, can you say a few words and introduce yourself?
Thank you so much for inviting me today. It's such a pleasure. I'm basically a fashion and lifestyle influencer on Little Red Book, and I'm also based in London. I myself also work in the influencer marketing field myself, so it's very interesting to see from both a brand and creator side of point of view. I've got around 92,000 followers on Little Red Book, and also have a Bilibili account, which is a Chinese video platform similar to YouTube. So I actually started my account during COVID time, and basically after 2 years, and here I am. Normally I would share like lifestyle and fashion content, also makeup content to my followers, such as like help them to try to find their own style, and such as cultural differences between China and UK, which is very popular. My followers really like that point. And I also share some fitness, gym, and makeup content at the same time. And that's me.
Thank you, Faye. And I'm introducing myself as well. So my name is Ran. I'm the Director of Consumer Economy at CBBC. I'm based in Beijing. So together with my counterpart, Antoinetta, who is also, I'm sure, listening to this forum, and with my team of project managers here in China, we help a number of UK brands and companies, our clients and members, from a wide range of subsectors within retail and fashion to enter the Chinese market. And we also help those that are already in market to grow and expand their presence in China. So yeah, it's very, very exciting for me to be speaking with Faye and Robin and Steffi, because you know, I'm following the UK Zone account on WeChat, and then I'm a follower of Faye's account on the Little Red Book as well. So I think my first question goes to you, Robin, as I know you work international. Influencer International, Pop International, you work with a group of influencers who are not China based, but who have influence over Chinese consumers. I know you're, you know, the KOLs or the key opinion leaders and the KOCs, key opinion consumers, are often living or studying in the UK. I think I'm quite curious of how they influence or what kind of impact they have on consumers who are actually in China. Why do they care about, you know, what influencers sharing, you know, on the UK side, you know, how that's relevant? Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you, Ran. Yeah, so we always saw like all the British brands actually is really lucky, because you have a really huge group of like UK-based Chinese students in here. So the reason why we would highly recommend the UK-based whatever KOL or KOC, because they have a group of your right target consumers. So we highlight a strategy is always UK-based, UK-related China market first, because in this large group, you got a UK-based Chinese students and a UK-based Chinese community, Chinese individuals and the Chinese travelers, and all the people who you know, care about the UK cultures, and they are the people who are the nature or like organic UK culture promoter, and also they are the reason why they would choose the UK, because they love the culture and they love the culture of the UK, and also all of the UK-based Chinese influencers, they could combine with their own experience to share more content, and also they would figure out more like a new selling points for the UK fashion brands. And also you can imagine all their followers behind that, they might be the Chinese students, and also all their friends around them, and also their families. So it's a first test. It could be a really, really good first test for all the UK fashion brands to know what they like and what they want, and how can they discover even new selling points for them. So that's the reason why every time when we suggest to the fashion brands, we will talk with them and even have a UK-based Chinese influencer focus group to give them the insights and the feedback, and help them to explore China market. Yeah.
Thank you, Robin. I think I totally agree with you because a lot of times from my experience working with either food and drink or retail brands from the UK, the potential distributors or the partners would check their presence on Little Red Book, whether you have any exposure or awareness at all. But often, before these brands enter the market, there's already presence, and this presence is developed and created by those who are living and working in the UK. So if you open the Little Red Book, if you have an account and just browse the content, so you see a lot of store visits or supermarket visits done by the students, Chinese students who are living in the UK, introducing the brands they love or the ice cream brands they love, and the different fashion trends. I think that's something that's super, super important. That's kind of the gateway of us knowing what's hot and what's popular in the UK. So totally agree.
Yeah.
And
also, sorry, please.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so right now, almost like all the Chinese social media platforms, it has already transformed from the UGC platform into a search engine. So just like what you mentioned, Ran, so almost like all the you can imagine all the Chinese travelers and the UK-based Chinese students. Every time if they search like OOTD, right, and what's the new latest fashion trends and everything. So to fund your to fund the right UK-based Chinese influencers would help the brand quite a lot and discover like a new USP, UPS, unique selling points. For the to the market and helping them even because every time if you enter a new market, you have to do your adaptations and try to understand the local needs. And the UK-based Chinese influencers, they would give you the most fresh insights to them.
Yeah, totally agreed. So Steffi, so as I said, I'm a follower of the UK Zone because that gives me, it's an important channel for me to follow what's the news in the UK, what's happening, what's happening in the society, other than the official Chinese channels. The media in China can be quite censored. So I follow the account daily. So. And then can you give us just a brief analysis on the profile of your audience of the UK Zone, because we kind of tend to imagine that once, people who are living or studying in the UK are into different things than the Chinese who are actually living in China. So in terms of fashion trends, do you think your followers, the UK Zone followers, are into different fashion trends, or are they into different things generally?
Yeah, sure. I think these are two questions, right?
Yeah.
And it's really good to hear like you are also the follower of UK Zone. Thank you for your support. And of course, our followers mainly include the current international students, working people and Chinese immigrants in the UK, as well as some well-educated people with overseas backgrounds who have been in the UK but are now in China, and also people who are interested in the UK and are planning to come to the UK in the future. And our audience is like balanced between the male and the female. They are mainly between the ages of 18 and 35, and most of them are Gen Z, the Generation Z. And their common interests include like the fashion, food, music, and other like lifestyle interests. And they also receive information in a relatively different way, like you said before. They tend to draw information more from social media and listen to more organic and real experiences sharing. Likewise, they themselves also could become the natural promoters when they trust a product or a brand. And with the overseas background, our audience can easily embrace the British culture and trends, and at the same time, they have not been away from China for very long, so they can also represent the habits and the characteristics of Chinese consumer very well. And this is why some brands use a channel for the first market reach and to test their market intentions. And for the second question, if Chinese people living in the UK are more interested in different fashion trends than the Chinese living in China, I would say that there must be some difference. From the social media point of view, female living in China are more into like the feminine fashion content, for example. This group of people, they like to share like more fairy style outfit, more feminine way. So whereas Chinese people living in the UK, they tend towards like unisex fashion style, and they could accept like more exaggerated outfit. They can embrace lots of different styles because of the influence of the local trend. But the fact is that I think people in both places around the world, they are sharing information on the similar social media platforms, where they can see each other and see the shared information in common. So there is a growing convergence of fashion tastes. And for brands, we think it's actually more important to educate your audience rather than follow the trend.
Yeah, thank you, Steffi. I agree with what you said as well. And to Faye, Faye, can you still hear us?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great. So yeah, I'm just I have a lot of questions for you. But first of all, I think have you done any study on the composition of your followers? I know the Little Red Book is largely it's a female app. I can say it's a female app, but then a lot of followers on a lot of users of Little Red Book will be female consumers. So can you tell us a little bit more about the profile of your followers on the Little Red Book?
I think when I first start the account, I have like 80%, which is female audience, but right now I have probably like 95% of female audience, only 5% is actually male audience. So you can see like my contents really attract to female audience. And I think I got more audience in the age range from probably 20 to 30. And then the second most audience group would be from 18 to 25. So I have relatively younger audience, and normally they would interested in fashion, lifestyle, especially I feel no matter if my audience is based in China or based in UK or other international places, they're always interested in UK related fashion style or UK related lifestyle. And I have around 75% would be based in China and 15% is based in UK, like roughly regional wise.
Yeah, that's interesting. Can you tell us, or why do you think those, their followers, 75% of your followers will be China-based? That's kind of impressive. So for myself, I follow you because it's part of my job, my daily work to understand what's going on in the UK. So it's a natural interest for me. But then also there's a sense of life elsewhere for me, to know what kind of life people are leading, outside China. So why do you think those China-based followers are following you? Are they following you for different reasons than they follow other influencers?
Because I feel my content is very focused on like what's going on here, as in the lifestyle here is very different, no matter it's fashion style, makeup style, or even like culture difference. Even I can just do a video about the drinking cultures and how it's different to China. And that's, I think, really fascinating for them to understand. And also, I guess for the fashion trend and for the lifestyle is different as well, where in China, such as Steffi and Robin mentioned, like they really into like unisex style, but then here would be people interested in different brand or even independent brand. Like for me, myself, I see a growing interest from Chinese audience interested in small, independent and niche brands such as Stan Studio. Stan Studio was massive last year on Red because of their vegan cult. But then I just guess like people from China just really like want to find out fashion trend, what's happening overseas and how they can purchase these amazing brands as well.
Yeah, thank you, Faye. And we know that China has its own rather closed internet ecosystem. So in order to reach out to Chinese consumers and to have an impact on them, a brand needs to have a presence on the Chinese social media, including Little Red Book that we're all talking about. But then also there's more. There's Douyin, there's Bilibili, which is a short video platform, a little bit similar to Douyin. But and then there's also WeChat and Weibo that everybody uses. So, and we cannot, I'm not sure if everyone who's watching this webinar knows that we cannot access platforms like YouTube or Instagram or and whatnot. So majority of the social media platforms that everybody's using, we cannot access them in China. So we have our own versions of everything. So that makes it that makes it super important for a brand to be working with a Chinese influencer on a Chinese platform. So that leads to my next question, Robin. So how does a fashion brand choose a KOL to work with? What kind of credentials or criteria do you think they should raise? How can you help us guide the brands through, and are there any pitfalls to watch out for? And then can you give us some case studies in that area?
Yes, thank you, Ran. Yeah, so as you know, so many fashion influencers actually either they work independently or they belong to like a part of a MC, and I would say like an influencer incubating agent, right? So the brand really need to understand, the selected the influencers who work with the agencies who are from the industry, and they also need lots of like inputs to work with these influencers. For example, the brands need a well-made brief and experience, understand their experience and opportunities to the influencers. And also the brand should make a very good balance between, the promotional content and the influencers content. Otherwise, you just cannot work with you just cannot have a very authentic content and have a more engagement with your audience. So rather than, the direct sponsored, collaboration, the brand also could consider, the product seedings as a soft approach to test who's, the best performance from the KOC or KOL. And for example, so when we work with a brand, in campaigns or like a short-term projects, we always shortlist the right influencers based on the, the client's needs and the platforms combined with over, the data analyzed models, like which build on, the multiple dimensions like risk assessments, whether they are, it's a happy person, outgoing person. Yeah. So it's so that's really important, and also combined with the previous performance analysis and the industry's relatedness. So but for the long-term project, normally we just help the brand to find the micro influencers and help the brand to develop the influencers who can grow with brands, from the macro and to the the KOL. So for example, we hosted like IHI UK Chinese influencer incubator camps. So to develop the different the KOCs into the different fields. So one of the very important fields actually is fashion. Yeah. So we connect the brands with ideal KOCs to help them to co-create content on over designed topics. For example, like what's the what do you understand the push in your feelings? What's your fashion ideas, and what's your OOTD? And that's what and tell us about like why you would choose this outfit. And every week we will ask them to combine with the brand content to create a video and share on their platforms to understand the brand ideas and the stories and everything. And the brand also could test all those like candidates who are the most suitable for their brand to boost the brand awareness and the influence and the public influence till they become the two KOLs and successfully graduate and help the brand to for their promotion. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Robin. I think I also want to hear thoughts, from the influencer side from Faye. So Faye, do you work with brands on commercial basis?
Yeah, I do. And most of them are actually fashion brands.
Yeah, so can you tell us a typical route to work with an influencer? What happens if a brand's, a clothing brand wants to work with you, and what will happen next? And then what do you have any, ROIs that a brand can measure, and what kind of results do you tend to? Is it tangible results, or it's more like long-term intangible investment?
In terms of the process of how to work with an influencer, normally there's I would say 3 ways. So first is, I would say, is seeding, meaning gifting. So sometimes fashion brand will just send me a lookbook, for example, like winter, autumn. I will pick the items that I like and I would give them exposure in my video. But to work on this basis, it would be unpaid collaboration, and the brand wants gave me a lot of saying like, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to tag my account. And then the next 2 ones, one is just organic ads, meaning it's not go through the platform. So it would be a paid collaboration where, but then the content has to be subtle because, as mentioned before, Little Red Book is a very regulated platform. So if you really advertise this brand in a harsh way, it would be leaking to traffic blockage, which no one want to see that. And then the third way would be sponsored advertisement, meaning it would go through the platform, which the brand need to pay a small fee for this to the platform as well. So you can see the brand tag is actually on the bottom of the video. So when the user click this tag, it would automatically go to this brand's Little Red Book account. But for this one, that everyone knows this is an advertisement. So sometimes I prefer doing organic ads because it's just more genuine, and sometimes the results are just better than the sponsored advertisement. And you mentioned about how do I measure the ROI? I would say there would be short-term ROI and also long-term ROI at the same time. The first thing you can see is definitely social performance. You can see how many people have been see this advertisement and likes, saves, and comments. You can see customer incentives to purchase, or if people ask a lot of things about this brand or have the intention to purchase. But I've also worked with brands as code. So the brands will give me like a dedicated influencer code, for example, my name, and I would normally include that in the comment area. I would pin the comment just so that people can see it, also share in my group chat. But sometimes the platform will also block it, since Red, like, they don't support to leak to directing traffic to external platform. But this way, again, you can check like how many people have been purchased you closing and how many people go to your website if you have tracking technology system behind the code. And yeah, I would say these are the ways that how I work with a fashion brand.
Yeah, thank you, Faye. I think that's very interesting. And also, I think Red is also coming up as an e-commerce platform now. This is the aspect that you're trying to grow, but then I don't think they're up to compete with, you know, the Tmall or JD.com yet. But then Red does have, you know, its own you know, specialties, as you know, if you follow an influencer, you know, if you attach to the influencer, you know, you tend to there's also live streaming function as well. You tend to, you know, you can make a purchase through the live streaming. So I've done that. So I think it works better for me. Red, it's more personal. It creates that, you know, attachment between you and the connection between you and that influencer. And it's more personal, and it's more, you know, there's more character to products than Tmall, which is basically a browser, you know, like Amazon. So very, very interesting. So I think, you know, if I would have one of you each give some suggestions to UK fashion brands that are looking to enter the Chinese market, what kind of advice or suggestions would you give, Robin?
My suggestions is like be brave and set up your own Chinese social media accounts, official account, as earlier as possible, as earlier as you could, because many UK fashion brands, before they officially enter China market, actually they have already had lots of like organic fans of the brands. So so once you set up your social media account, you can have the better interactions and engagement with your like organic fans. So I think that's really, really important. So just be brave and set up the account as early as you could.
Thank you. And over to you, Steffi.
Yeah, quite agree with Robin, because like be brave. It is brave to establish the channels of communication between the brands and fans early on, so that your fans can also find the brand in your posts, which will drive the interaction more positively. And also I would suggest to use social media, and use social media. And this includes that not only just the social media Robin just mentioned, it's also like you can utilize lots of digital media channels, includes like WeChat, Weibo, Red, and Douyin, which is the TikTok in China. And also you can like use the traffic of this, in China, we call it big V. I would say it's like the influence of the KOL on these platforms. You can utilize the traffic of the KOLs to drive your traffic more positively. And also, like, I would say maybe the Chinese social media may be a little bit like not so relatable to the UK brands, but you can put it equivalent to like the Instagram page or Facebook page. And also the TikTok right now has a TikTok shop as well. So I just similar suggestion with Robin to set up your channel as early as you can.
Thank you.
Yeah, like your fans could fund you online.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right. And Faye.
I definitely agree with Robin and Steffi, but I feel China is such a different market. For all the brand, it's a test and learn ongoing process. So I would say definitely pick the right form, pick the right platform, the right audience, and really engage with them. For example, I wouldn't suggest luxury brand to go on Douyin, but definitely luxury brand, fashion brand, Little Red Book is you go to platform that's to engage with the right audience.
Right, thank you. I think from my side, I have a few suggestions. First is to explore your options, and I would agree with Steffi. You know, use the social platform, but then also know your options and weigh your options carefully, because it can be a vast market with a vast amount of investment. So have a long-term strategy and know your options. It's there's definitely more than one, and also talk to people like Robin, the Influencer Hub International. There are options at home. You don't need to actually necessarily need to work with someone in China. Working with a KOL that's based in the UK can be your first step. So that's my first suggestion. And also localize your content. I mean, do have a China strategy and make the content on the Chinese social media bespoke. Do not just translate, copy and paste your contents from Instagram and YouTube, and because it doesn't work. So I guess that's all. So we are very happy to have all three of you, Robin, Steffi, and Faye. So if you would like to reach out to any of them, well, contact us at CBBC, or you can reach out to Robin directly. Yeah, that marks the end of today's panel discussions. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ran. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see a lot of questions at the Q&A box. If that's the case, we'll call it a day. But if you do have any questions to any of the speakers or panelists at the roundtable discussions, please send your questions to me at the email address here, ran.guo@cbbc.org, or reach out to our colleagues at DIT. So that being said, I would like to thank everyone for your time today, and thank you all the speakers and panelists, the moderator, and DIT for joining us. So I hope you a good evening or a nice day on the UK side. Tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, we will have 2 days of matchmaking for the 4 UK fashion brands. So I will see you again tomorrow, and stay in touch. Thank you very much.